This is NDTV. And you're watching NDTV Prime.
Good morning. What a delight it is to be at Shivnada School to meet with the members of the foundation, the school board, teachers and students. As Australia's Foreign Minister, I am visiting India to meet with counterpart ministers, your External Affairs Minister, Minister Swaraj. I met with the Prime Minister yesterday and also with your Minister for Finance and Defence, Minister Jaitley. As I travel around the world, whether it's in the Pacific or whether it's in India or Eastern Europe or the United States, when we see the increase in robotics and automation and artificial intelligence, we can see that the jobs of the future, the careers of the future will be very different from those we see today.
Thank you so much for your time, ma'am. Among the things, of course, that was mentioned and also drew an applause when you were being introduced was the fact that you're Australia's first woman foreign minister. Now, there are very few of you out there. There are some 29, 30 or under 30, perhaps, women foreign ministers around the world. You had once joked that you should have a G29 just for yourselves. But what does this statistic really mean to you personally?
There are about 190 countries in the world, and at present there are about 26, 27 female foreign ministers. But it's an important message that women can take on the very arduous task of being foreign minister, because inevitably it means a great deal of travel, a long time away from home, and representing your country on the world stage. Of course, it depends on the size and foreign policy focus of the particular country. But nevertheless, it's another example to prove that no position should be denied to a person because of their gender. And there have been 38 foreign ministers in Australia's history, and I'm the first woman to hold the role. I think it's important that we send a message to young women that the opportunities for advancement are boundless, that if you set your mind to a particular position or role and you work very hard, there's an opportunity that you will in fact achieve it.
That's really great to hear, because here in India, each time, and I hate to use the cliche, but a woman breaks the glass ceiling. I'm not quite convinced of the use of that word, but we use that a lot around here. It sort of makes big banner headlines and is much celebrated. But as a country, we're a very young country. We're a country that's hungry for the best opportunities, which is why more Indian students are going abroad to study now than ever before. You touched upon the fact that there are jobs of tomorrow that haven't even been thought about yet. Sitting here today, we have no idea, which is why perhaps that India has begun talking more about the soft skills that go with it, that you need to be armed with it. In all your travels around the world, do you sense that the world's now waking up and taking this seriously? Because it's all well to have your classroom knowledge, and we do need that, and no one's saying that we've got to do away with that, but it needs to be supplemented with so much more.
Very much. In fact, Australia has a significant foreign aid program where we assist developing countries, particularly in the Pacific, so small island developing states in the Pacific. And if you're challenged with the type of jobs that young Australian students will have in the future, think about students in these small island developing states, which face so many challenges, from climate change through to sustainable economies, through to political stability, a whole range of challenges. What are the types of jobs that students in Pacific Islands, for example, will have? So the Australian government has partnered with the Massachusetts Institute of Technology and with a very successful tech company in Australia called Atlassian. And the three of us in partnership are undertaking a significant study to throw out this challenge. What are going to be the jobs that young people in Pacific Island nations will be able to look forward to? It's called a solve-a-thon. So we've thrown out the challenge and we're looking for ideas from around the world. In fact, I'd love some ideas from Shiv Nadar's school. Ideas around the world of what are the skills that young people are going to need to be prepared for the jobs of the future, given that the future is so unknown. And I think that this is the kind of process that we need to go through to challenge our thinking, to challenge our assumptions, but also come up with ideas that will provide support and guidance and assistance to the young people who are entering this very exciting but challenging time.
Absolutely. I think we're also sort of getting used to a shift in our thinking on we don't need to fear technology and what it will do and artificial intelligence and robotics and all of that, but sort of learn to live with it and harness it to the best, embrace it, absolutely, and use it to our advantage. Well, I'm told that we have loads of youngsters with many questions, so without wasting any time, we'll get started right away. Shreya Nair from Sun City School, Gurgaon, I'm told, has a question. Shreya, if you could just please stand up.
Ma'am, I would like to ask you, what are the 3 skills you think will never go out of demand when it comes to employability?
Thank you for the question. I touched on that in my words to you. I think the ability to communicate is absolutely essential. Showing leadership. I'm not suggesting that everyone has to end up as Prime Minister, although here in India and in Australia you can aspire to it, most certainly. But to show leadership, be prepared to speak out and say what you think and convince others of your point of view. I think that leadership is a skill that we will always need, and it can be learned. I don't think that leaders are only born. I think they can be taught. And then continue to be curious, nimble in your thinking, continue to ask questions.
I think so. I think that as one of my bosses used to love saying, the hunger in the belly, the fire in the belly, I think sort of that goes with, wanting to be curious. And talking about language, we've also begun to focus on the need for top language skills, and which is why India loves that parallel with China, where we keep talking about how our language skills, especially English language, of course, sort of gives us a slight edge, but they're catching up. Anyway, we have another question now from Shiv Nadar School, Noida. And this is Aryan Shankar Mishra.
Good morning, ma'am. I would like to ask whether you feel that the present education system, whether it equips the students of tomorrow with the necessary skills to adapt to the careers of the future, and if not, how must this be fundamentally changed?
I think that education systems around the world are also facing the challenge reflected in society generally, that technological advances, the sheer scale and pace of them are so rapid, so immense, that we are struggling to keep up with it. And education systems are the same. But I think that curriculums need to be constantly under review to ensure that they are relevant to the career paths of the future. And I've seen it here today at Shiv Nadar that the curriculum and some of the courses and activities that you're undertaking are directly linked into professional or business careers, and that's a wonderful thing. So it's about constantly reviewing, constantly assessing whether our subjects are relevant for the future. But this means that our teachers have to be equipped with the skills and the inquiring mind, the curiosity, to ensure that they're asking the right questions when they are studying to be teachers.
Well, we have another question. This one from Modern School, Vasant Vihar, Kashmi Jajodia.
Good morning, ma'am. My question to you is, could you please give us an insight on the major areas that the admission officer looks for in an ideal portfolio?
Well, clearly, if you want to apply to study abroad, you want to have a focus on the subject, the course, the discipline that you want to pursue. Clearly, you need to be confident about your ability to cope when living overseas and studying overseas, but also having a view of what you want to achieve. And there has to be a match between what you're studying and the university or the educational institution that you'll be visiting. So if you wanted to apply to come to Australia, for example, it would be a great idea to have done some study as to what opportunities are available and do a little bit of homework on the discipline or the field of study. And then, of course, they'll ask questions about your ability to look after yourself, you know, how are you going to pay for it, etc. They'll ask all those sorts of practical questions. But if you're enthusiastic and obviously have got the grades, got the marks to be accepted into a university overseas, then I'm sure you'll be very welcome.
You've studied in Australia. You also mentioned briefly there that you have studied overseas as well. What does a foreign campus really bring? Or what was your experience like? Or what did you believe you got from there, which perhaps Australia or any other country wouldn't provide?
Well, I think, let me take Australia as an example. We have about 600,000 international students studying in Australia at any one time. And so that means our campuses are very multicultural. We have people from all over the world. So you have Australian students, but then Australia is a very multicultural society. About 45% of our population were either born overseas or has at least one parent born overseas. We have people from all over the world as Australian citizens living happily in Australia. So our universities, our schools reflect that composition of the Australian society. Add to that international students and you get a real melting pot. And what a great opportunity it is to meet people from different backgrounds, different religions, different cultural backgrounds, different life experience. It just enriches you as a person and gives you new perspectives and insights that you would not otherwise gain. So I think that studying in a country like Australia that is so multicultural, you get to see a lot of the world in one place.